Greenlandic is an Eskimo Aleut language spoken by about 57,000 Greenlandic Inuit in Greenland. It is closely related to the Inuit languages in Canada such as Inuktitut. The main variety, Kalaallisut West Greenlandic, has been the official language of the Greenlandic Autonomous Territory since June 2009. This is a move by the Naalakkersuisut to strengthen the language in its competition with the colonial language, Danish. The second variety is Tunumiit oraasiat or East Greenlandic. The Thule Inuit of Greenland, Inuktitut Polar Eskimo, is a recent arrival and a dialect of Inuktitut. Greenlandic is a polysynthetic language that allows the creation of long words by stringing together roots and suffixes. Its morphosyntactic alignment is ergative, meaning that it treats the argument of an intransitive verb like the object of a transitive verb, but distinctly from the agent of a transitive verb. Nouns are inflected for one of the 8 cases and for possession. Verbs are inflected for one of the 8 moods and for the number and person of its subject and object. Both nouns and verbs have complex derivational morphology. Basic word order in transitive clauses is subject-object-verb. Subordination of clauses is done by the use of special subordinate moods. A so-called fourth-person category enables switch reference between main clauses and subordinate clauses with different subjects. Greenlandic is notable for its lack of a system of grammatical tense, as temporal relations are normally expressed through context, through the use of temporal particles such as yesterday or now, or sometimes through the use of derivational suffixes of the combination of affixes with aspectual meanings with the semantic accent of different verbs. However, some linguists have suggested that Greenlandic does mark future tense obligatorily. Another question is whether the language has noun incorporation, or whether the processes that create complex predicates that include nominal roots are derivational in nature. When adopting new concepts or technologies, Greenlandic usually constructs new words made from Greenlandic roots. But modern Greenlandic has also taken many loans from Danish and English. The language has been written in the Latin script since Danish colonization began in the 1700s. The first orthography was developed by Samuel Kleinschmidt in 1851, but within 100 years already differed substantially from the spoken language because of a number of sound changes. An extensive orthographic reform undertaken in 1973 that made the script easier to learn resulted in a boost in Greenlandic literacy, which is now among the highest in the world. History. The Greenlandic language was brought to Greenland with the arrival of the Thule people in the 1200s. It is unknown which languages were spoken by the earlier Sikak and Dorset cultures in Greenland. The first descriptions of Greenlandic date from the 1600s, and with the arrival of Danish missionaries in the early 1700s, and the beginning of Danish colonialism in Greenland, the compilation of dictionaries and description of grammar began. The missionary Paul Eade read the first Greenlandic dictionary in 1750, and the first grammar in 1760. For the Danish colonization in the 1700s to the beginning of Greenlandic Home Rule in 1979, Greenlandic experienced increasing pressure from the Danish language. In the 1950s, Denmark's linguistic policies were directed at replacing Greenlandic with Danish. Of primary significance was that post-primary education and official functions were conducted in Danish. From 1851 to 1973, Greenlandic was written in a complicated orthography devised by the missionary linguist Samuel Kleinschmidt. In 1973, a new orthography was introduced intended to bring the written language closer to the spoken standard, which had changed considerably since Kleinschmidt's time. The reform was effective, and in the years following it, Greenlandic literacy received a boost. Another development that strengthened the Greenlandic language has been the policy of Greenlandization of Greenlandic society, which began with the Home Rule Agreement of 1979. This policy has worked to reverse the former trend towards marginalization of the Greenlandic language by making it the official language of education. The fact that Greenlandic has become the only language used in primary schooling has meant that today monolingual Danish-speaking parents in Greenland are raising children bilingual in Danish and Greenlandic. Today Greenlandic has several dedicated news media: the Greenlandic National Radio, Kalaallisut Radio, which provides television and radio programming in Greenlandic. The newspaper Tunumiit has been published since 1958, and in 2010 merged with the other newspaper Naalakkersuisut, Greenland.It, which was established already in 1861 to form a single large Greenlandic language publishing house. Before June 2009, Greenlandic shared its status as the official language in Greenland with Danish. Since then, Greenlandic has become the sole official language. This has made Greenlandic a unique example of an indigenous language of the Americas that is recognized by law as the only official language of a semi-independent country. Nevertheless, it is still considered to be in a vulnerable state by the UNESCO Red Book of Language Endangerment. The country has a 100% literacy rate. As the Western Greenlandic standard has become dominant, a UNESCO report has labeled the other dialects as endangered, and measures are now being considered to protect the Eastern Greenlandic dialect. Classification. Kalaallisut and the other Greenlandic dialects belong to the Eskimo Aleut family and are closely related to the Inuit languages of Canada and Alaska. Illustration 1 shows the locations of the different Eskimo languages, among them the three main dialects of Greenlandic. The most prominent Greenlandic dialect is West Greenlandic, which is the official language of Greenland. The name Kalaallisut is often used as a cover term for all of Greenlandic. The northern dialect, Inuktitut, spoken in the vicinity of the city of Karnak, is particularly closely related to Canadian Inuktitut. The eastern dialect, spoken in the vicinity of Amisalak Island and Tunumiit, is the most innovative of the Greenlandic dialects, having assimilated consonant clusters and vowel sequences to a greater extent than West Greenlandic. Kalaallisut is further divided into four subdialects. One that is spoken around Upernavik has certain similarities to East Greenlandic, possibly because of a previous migration from eastern Greenland. A second dialect is spoken in the region of Tunumiit and Danish.The Bay. The standard language is based on the central Kalaallisut dialect spoken in Tunumiit in the north, around Nuuk and as far south as Maniitsoq. Southern Kalaallisut is spoken around Narsaq and Qaqortoq in the south. Table 1 shows the differences in the pronunciation of the word for humans in the three main dialects. It can be seen that Inuktitut is the most conservative, maintaining the GH which has been elided in Kalaallisut, and Tunumiit is the most innovative, having further simplified the structure by eliding the N. Michael Fortescue, a specialist in Eskimo Aleut as well as in Chukotko-Kamchatkan, argues for a link between Uralic Chukotko-Kamchatkan and the Eskimo Aleut languages in language relations across Bering Strait. He calls this proposed grouping the Uralo-Siberian languages. Phonology. Letters between slashes indicate phonemic transcription. Letters in square brackets indicate phonetic transcription, and letters in triangular brackets indicate standard Greenlandic orthography. Vowels. The Greenlandic three-vowel system, composed of I, U, and A, is typical for an Eskimo Aleut language. Double vowels are analyzed as two morae. so they are phonologically a vowel sequence and not a long vowel. They are also written as two vowels in the orthography. The only diphthong in the language is I, which occurs only at the ends of words. Before a uvular consonant, I is realized allophonically as or, and U is realized allophonically as or, and the two vowels are written E, O respectively. A becomes retracted to in the same environment. I is rounded to before labial consonants. U is fronted to between two coronal consonants. The allophonic lowering of I and U before uvular consonants is shown in the modern orthography by writing I and U as I and O, respectively, before uvulars Q and R. For example, Ui, husband, pronounced Uakapuk. She has a husband, pronounced and written Wekapok. Aleut, house, pronounced Alukapuk. He has a house, pronounced and written Alokapok. Consonants. Greenlandic has consonants at 5 points of articulation: labial, alveolar, palatal, velar and uvular. It does not have phonemic voicing contrast, but rather distinguishes stops from fricatives. It distinguishes stops, fricatives, and nasals at the labial, alveolar, velar, and uvular points of articulation. The earlier palatal sibilant has merged within all but a few dialects. The labiodental fricative is only contrastive in loan words. The alveolar stop is pronounced as an affricate before the high front vowel I. Often Danish loanwords are written with Danish letters for voice stops bdg, for example barger, beer, and guti, god. But in Greenlandic these stops are pronounced exactly as ptk, I, e, and phonological constraints. The Kalaallisut syllable is simple, allowing syllables of V, where C is a consonant and V is a vowel and VV is a double vowel. A word final I. Native words may only begin with a vowel or P, T, K, Q, S, M, N. They may end only in P, T, K, Q, or rarely N. Consonant clusters only occur over syllable boundaries, and the pronunciation is subject to regressive assimilations that convert them into geminates. All non-nasal consonants in a cluster are voiceless. Prosody. Greenlandic prosody does not include stress as an autonomous category. Instead, prosody is determined by tonal and durational parameters. Intonation is influenced by syllable weight. Heavy syllables are pronounced in a way that may be perceived as stress. Heavy syllables include syllables with long vowels and syllables before consonant clusters. The last syllable is stressed in words with fewer than 4 syllables and without long vowels or consonant clusters. The antepenultimate syllable is stressed in words with more than 4 syllables that are all light. In words with many heavy syllables, syllables with long vowels are considered heavier than syllables before a consonant cluster. Geminate consonants are pronounced long, almost exactly with the double duration of a single consonant. Intonation in indicative clauses usually rises on the antepenultimate syllable, falls on the penultimate, and rises on the last syllable. Interrogative intonation rises on the penultimate and falls on the last syllable. Morphophonology. Greenlandic phonology distinguishes itself phonologically from the other Inuit languages by a series of assimilations. Greenlandic phonology allows clusters, but it does not allow clusters of two different consonants unless the first one is A. The first consonant in a cluster is always assimilated to the second one, resulting in a geminate consonant. Geminate.T is pronounced and written TS. Geminate.Ul is pronounced. Geminate is pronounced. Geminate is pronounced. Geminate.VV is pronounced and written FF. V is also pronounced and written after R. These assimilations mean that one of the most recognizable Inuktitut words, iglu, is alu in Greenlandic, where the L consonant cluster of Inuktitut is assimilated into a voiceless alveolar lateral affricate, and the word Inuktitut itself, when translated into Kalaallisut, becomes Inuktitut. The Old Greenlandic diphthong o has assimilated to aa. The consonant v has disappeared when between u and I or a. This means that affixes beginning with Virginia of I have forms without when suffixed to stems ending in u. The vowel I of modern Greenlandic is the result of an historic merger of the Proto-Eskimo Aleut vowels *hi and *. The fourth vowel was still present in Old Greenlandic as attested by Hans Ede. In modern West Greenlandic, the difference between the two original vowels can only be discerned morphophonologically in certain environments. The vowel that was originally * has the variant when preceding another vowel and sometimes disappears before certain suffixes. The degree to which the assimilation of consonant clusters has taken place is an important dialectal feature separating Polar Eskimo, Inuktitut, which still allows some ungeminated consonant clusters, from West and East Greenlandic. East Greenlandic has shifted some geminate consonants, e.g., to, in Tunumiit oraasiat. For example, the name of a particular town is Inuktitut.The, which would appear as Aleut in Kalaallisut.